This episode of the Inferno is presented by Pearl River Resort. Pearl River Resort is the perfect place to spend a game day weekend. With gaming, golf, dining, entertainment, and more, there's no better place to stay and play. Welcome back to the Inferno. Today's episode rundown brought to you by Legacy Credit Union. Legacy Credit Union, the official credit union of UAB. First, it was grilling tips. Then it was dating tips.
We've had everything.
Now it's tips on when is it time to come home. We'll ask Trent Dilfer about that coming up in just a few minutes. Time to knock off an undefeated team this weekend. What really happens after the bye week. And this week in Blazers Athletics, we will start our big old show coming up here next, right here on the Inferno.
Trent Dilfer here, head football coach of the UAB Blazers. I want to tell you about my friends at Legacy Credit Union. Legacy began as University Credit Union in 1955 and remains committed to UAB faculty, students, alumni, and fans. Not only do they support the Birmingham community, but they are also proud sponsors of UAB and UAB Athletics. Visit LegacyCreditUnion.com and find out why you should become a member today.
Welcome back to the Inferno. As you can see, we only have two of us here. Coach Trent Dilfer of the UAB Blazers. I'm Tony Curry. Mark Ingram, the UAB Athletic Director, is gone for the day. So the cat's
AD
away.
Business, yeah.
The mice will play.
Let's talk about them.
So let's do it. Want to? Let's start right there. I'm glad you brought that up. What kind of relationship, and obviously I know you're going to say you have a great relationship. I've known Mark for a long period of time, but I've also known ADs where you never see the AD. Mm-hmm. I've seen, it's like GMs at radio stations. Like if I never saw the GM, it was a good day. Yep. If I saw the GM, I knew something was about ready to hit the fan. But what kind of relationship do you have with him? What kind of guy is he to work for? I guess he's considered above you because he's the athletic director. He does the hiring, firing, but you bring in the big time cash.
I think it can be a very complicated relationship.
Yeah.
Most of my mentors, not even peers, I'm new to this, but most of the people that I've known in the college football profession for a long time advised me never have a great relationship with the AD. Always keep them on edge. You're pushing, they're resisting, you're pushing, they're resisting, you have to win. In my older life, I probably would have adopted that, to be quite honest with you. I do not think that is the best methodology right now here at UAB. I think Mark has been under a tremendous amount of pressure based when he was here when football was brought back. I think naturally when people are disappointed, he becomes a polarizing figure. Any person in leadership becomes that.
Yeah.
And he's had his hands tied in certain things. And I think he gets blamed for a lot of things that are not necessarily on him. Mm-hmm. And so I've chosen to have a great relationship with Mark. One, I think he's a really good human being.
He is.
Right? He's a good human. I don't think he has poor intentions. I think if somebody handed him $10 million, he'd love to give it to me. Yeah. You know, not me the person, but me the program. Mm-hmm. I think all those things would be true. I think he just is stuck in a weird transition right now. And I think empathy and understanding his side is very helpful. I think Bryant Carter, who is our sports admin, associate athletic director, is in the same boat and is probably our biggest advocate. Right now, he has to say no to us a lot of times, and a lot of people don't like hearing no. Yeah. And when they hear no, they fight. And I've hopefully become wise enough. I'm learning. I'm growing. Everybody, I still have a lot of issues, but I'm growing. I'm learning that no is not necessarily never. No is not now.
Yeah.
And no, sometimes you have to use the no's to get better. Mm-hmm. And sometimes Mark and Brian have to say no to some stuff I really, really think they're wrong for saying no to. But I got to understand why they're saying no. Yeah. And I can't whine about it, can't complain about it. I have a sign outside my door, and everybody knows there's no problems, only solutions. So I'm in the solution business. And because of that, I think Mark, Bryant, and I have been able to work really, really well together. Are we always besties? No. I mean, if we're, even when we're sitting here doing this show, there's times there's tension because there's things that I want that he can't give, or he wants that I'm doing not the way he wants them done.
But winning football games can put you on the right trajectory.
Winning fixes a lot of things, but I think how you treat people fixes a lot of things. And we've worked through some serious conflicts in my 21, 22 months here, and hopefully we've done them in a way, both sides, where There's mutual respect, there's professionalism, and we've worked towards a common goal. There's nobody that wakes up at UAB and says, hey, I want to lose today.
Yeah.
Right? People,
no doubt.
None of us are waking up saying, let's find another way to lose. That's never the intent. Sometimes it's going to be harder to win this way, but let's hire coaches that are willing to take on that challenge and find the harder way to win.
This week in Blazer Athletics, brought to you by Pearl River Resort. You know him, Trent Dilfer, the head coach of the UAB Blazers. You got the bye week this past week. You got a Navy team, 3-0. Good night. Trying to go undefeated, go 4-0 for the first time in about 7 years. Yeah, and I do a lot of radio shows on Tony Curry Radio. We do a handicapping show up, and one of my best bets was Memphis minus the 9.5 against Navy, and I'm looking down, it's 34 or 35 to 10. I'm like, wow, I'm missing something here from this team. Blake Horvath, that quarterback, he's averaging 10.8 yards per carry. And I think everyone thought that, once Coach Ken left, things were going to look different. Kind of the same, maybe a little bit.
Oh, better.
You're rubbing your head a lot.
I'm losing my hair. Already lost. All right, so I'll try to give this short answer, not the long Dilfer answer. Coach Ken did a great job establishing core values, obviously, that are already in the academies, strong, but even stronger.
And by the way, doing a pretty nice job at San Jose State.
Doing a great job. Yeah. He's a great coach, great man. What Brian Newberry has done is taken kind of an intellectual approach to his program. They have strong players. They have better athletes than people think. That's the biggest misconception about the academies is, they're not as talented. Yeah, they're not as long, they're not as big, they're not as celebrated coming out of high school, but those coaches are not stupid. They understand speed, power, strength, twitch, all these things. They get the right kind of player that fits their system.
Is it fair to assume they're going to be more disciplined than any other program?
They are, and they're fast, man. They are fast, especially offensively. And they have versatility. Belichick always talked about a versatile football player is a more dangerous football player. They have wings that can play running back, they can play wide receiver, that can block. They have fullbacks that can run, block, catch. They have a quarterback that can throw, run, break tackles. Like, they have versatile athletes. Defensively, they have players that can play in space and they can play at the line of scrimmage. They have players that can play in the weak flat and be blitzers. They have safeties that are run fillers and coverers. Like, they just have a lot of versatility on the roster. So Coach Newberry's taken this really intellectual approach. He's like, okay, maybe we're not as long, maybe we're not as big, but we're this. We know our opponent, and we can create schemes that make you eat your soup left-handed. And it's the easiest way of saying it is when you play the academies, you're constantly juggling your opposite hand, eating your soup and spilling it all over your chin, right? Like, you just never feel comfortable.
Yeah.
There's never a moment of, we've seen this, we know what's coming. No, you're put in a position of playing, like, you're catching. You're like, what's coming at us? I got to catch it. I got to figure it out. They try to make you never the aggressor.
Yeah.
And that compiled with good kids, disciplined kids, athletic kids, they are such a challenge. I mean, we've had an extra week of preparation, and it's literally right now the anxiety level in our building is high because we're still in the process of like, okay, we think we know what they're doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We think we know what their strengths and weaknesses are, but do we really? And I think it's going to take a really, really insanely good week of preparation by our coaches so our players can go out there and we've done all the thinking for them and they can just play fast.
It's amazing because Navy can look really bad depending on how you prepare for them. And obviously 4 weeks in, you've gotten a chance to look at a lot of tape with them.
Yep.
And they have looked really good. And then there's other times where they can make you look silly. I mean, just based on what they're, and you're like, how could you not be prepared for what they're just about ready to run and play?
The other thing about them is that if they play clean, they're going to be very hard to beat. Mm-hmm. When they've played poorly, they get messy.
Yeah.
Because it's a very complicated system to run on both sides. And if they get messy defensively, they're out of position. And you can make them play to their weaknesses. And offensively, if there's ball handling, there's so much smoke and mirrors with their ball handling that if that can get clunky, like SMU beat them 50-0, I think, last year. They moved the ball. They did some good things, just got clunky with the ball and gave the ball to SMU.
Yeah.
So you're not hoping for that. Anytime you go hoping for something in a game, you're going to lose. But you prepare a plan that maybe makes them a little messier. Maybe forces them to be a little messier.
Funky game last year, 31-6. That was a head scratcher. It was like, what did we just watch
when we
here?
Just played well too,
and it was just and obviously that's just happened against the Arkansas Razorbacks. So hopefully we'll not see that again. I think it's funny. Everyone's talking about the revenge factor, and they got us last year, and we're going to get him at home, and I worked around the pros and colleges enough to know that that's good for off-season type of stuff, billboard stuff. But once you take the snap, it's time to go ahead and win your box. What did you do during the bye week, or how did you prepare for this team? I'm assuming it came at a pretty decent time. I asked you last show whether you wanted to get right back out there and play again after you're obviously looking really good against Arkansas. So how do you feel like you practiced the last couple of weeks?
I think it came at a really good time. We were beaten up a little bit, not broken, but beaten down and battered a little bit emotionally and physically. So I think there's a chance to recharge, refresh, reset, whatever you want to call it. Get healthy. We did work 3 days last week. I thought we got better. We took kind of a conference approach at it. Instead of focusing on Navy, we focused on ourselves and conference tendencies, knowing that we have a long conference schedule ahead of us. So getting ahead on some commonalities of conference opponents to get our players more accustomed with what they're going to see moving forward. And then we stole a little bit of a walk on Friday against Navy, maybe call it a half an hour. And then yesterday, Sunday, had a really robust look, extra day at Navy. Normally you don't touch on your opponent much on a Sunday. We were able to. I think the kids getting back home to see their families was huge. Yeah. Like, these are kids, right? They have families, and they miss their families. And give them the opportunity to go see their families. I think that recharged many of them. Coaches had the weekend off. So, or I should say Friday, Saturday, till Sunday at 1 they had off. So we were able to go see, I guess, able to see my grandchildren for 36 hours. Be able to do some things, the luxuries that you sometimes miss during the season. The building was vibrant when we all came back. I think one of the positive things, we all missed each other. That's always a good sign.
Yeah, that's great.
When you miss each other. We had a great team meeting yesterday where I talked way more than I normally do, but I was able to kind of story tell a little bit about where we're at, where we're going, what our issues have been to this point. So I think we checked a lot of boxes during the bye week. Now, none of it matters unless we play better this week, but It was this particular team, this particular bye week, what I felt, talking to my coaches too and my captains, I felt was best for this bye week, leading us into a very difficult conference schedule.
Is your coaching schedule at the college level anything like your playing schedule when you were in the National Football League? Obviously, you're putting a lot of hours doing different things. You're behind a desk and not behind the weights. But, I mean, time-wise, you just mentioned you miss your family, you miss seeing your grandkids. Are there any similarities or anything comparable there?
Coach's schedule is a little more demanding than a player's schedule, even when you're a grinder as a player. The modern-day player takes most of their work home. I was pre-iPad, pre-surfaces. We still did most of our work at the building, so it'd be a good topic to do one day, like what with player hours.
Yeah.
But like my day after the game, day off was, probably 50% of what it is as a coach. Game preparation days, true work days, probably 25% more as a coach.
What would you say? And I always think it's funny because we have this in every industry. People get in at 3 o'clock in the morning. They're leaving at 3 o'clock in the morning. You're like, okay, that tells me that maybe they have to work hard to get something that they don't quite understand. Again, if you're winning national titles and you're working 16 hours a day, good for you. But a lot of people don't want to work 16 hours a day, and they can still win quite a bit. So what do you think about, I mean, do you tell people to go home if they want to stay?
I do. So my philosophy, I try to keep it pretty simple, is whatever it takes in season.
Okay.
So there are certain weeks that the level of preparation, for whatever reasons, are more demanding. There might be a Monday where we're there till 1 in the morning. Tonight, this is a Monday, we're recording this. Tonight we'll be there till 9. Not because Navy's less important, but because we had some extra time on them. So there's a lot of work that's already been canned. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever it takes. Thursday, I demand they're out of the building by 2:33. It's date night, go see your kids play, all those things. Now, there's always exceptions, too. Nick Coleman has 2 kids playing youth sports. If one of them plays on a Tuesday night, I'll send them to go watch the game and then come back.
Yeah.
You know?
Good.
Stole that from what's his name? Stoops. Did that at Oklahoma. Like we get in really early. One of the things I decided early in this was we're going to be an early rise team, because if you get a lot of work done before the sun's up, you have more time to be with your family in the evenings.
Amen,
the mornings are get them ready, make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and get them to school. Evenings, you get to eat dinner with them, see them play sports, read them bedtime stories, whatever their ages are, hear about their problems, watch a ball game with them. So I want them home as much as possible in the evenings. Off season, I have very strict office hours. We work our tails off one another, but I get them out of the building. It is not uncommon for my staff to be playing golf on a 2 p.m. on a Wednesday. Now we're in at 6. Yeah. And we're going to get a lot done. We're not going to get outworked. We're just going to work efficiently and in certain hours to where they can still have lives outside of football. But the basic model is Sunday through Wednesday, whatever it takes, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, you're kind of recharging your batteries, family time, and playing a ball game.
This week in Blazer Athletics, and of course the Coach's Corner presented by Pearl River Resort, which we're going to be doing a show from down there. Did you hear? I just made it up.
I haven't, but I'm in.
We're going to be down there. I think we're going to spend a week down there, go to Dancing Rabbit, have some 5-star dinners every night for a little while. It's going to be fantastic.
Place is awesome.
And again, you, by supporting the Inferno, you're supporting the UAB Blazers. We use this, of course, for NIL, name, image, and likeness, as well as collective, so we greatly appreciate that. I love to get pull the curtain back. We can talk about X's and O's all you want. It's fantastic. You're the best at doing that stuff. But Andy Kennedy, by the way, will also join us come basketball season.
The if in life, it's a world of possibilities. If you go for a night out with friends, if you can keep an eye on your money along the way, if you know you have overdraft protection with no fee transfers from savings, when you get a low balance alert, it's easier to say yes to fun. If that sounds good, try Regions Life Banking.
Stay ready for the if in life. Regions Bank embrace the if in life.
So an interesting story happened this past weekend. Now, I was blessed enough. I lived on South Hall Road over in Birmingham, and I had the guy who played Peter on To Kill a Mockingbird. His name was Philip from the 1950s movie.
Okay.
He lived to my right. And then Bob Teterick, who was an offensive lineman for the Detroit Lions, the Buffalo Bills, lived to my left.
I recognize that name.
And Bob was a big son of a... I mean, and his fingers are all mangled up. And I mean, he's unbelievable. And so, we go out and play golf every Saturday, and I'd say, man, whatever happens, Bob, because I know he worked his butt off. And this is when you work the season. You had to work off season.
Yes.
I mean, you take your time off.
No.
You were out of money in your last paycheck. You didn't need to go work at a flower shop or do something and go do. And he ended up working at a fracking company. And I said, what would you do when you bust your ass all week? You're working really hard, and then the guy to your right stays out all night.
Yeah.
And shows up, and he ain't worth a rip on Sunday afternoons. And he said, Tony, that was me.
Oh, really?
And I said, really? And he goes, yeah, you just get out there and play. And as long as you play, you did that. So there was an interesting story this past weekend. C.J. Abrams, I don't know if you know him from the Washington Nationals. They're playing a baseball series up in Chicago.
Oh, this guy got demoted to AAA?
He did.
Okay.
He went out to a casino, was having a good time, and he got in. I don't know exactly what time it was, but it was a 12 o'clock first pitch, and I think he got in like at 9:30 in the morning. And they sent him back. Now, he was an all-star the first half of the year. His numbers fell off quite a bit in the second half of the year. I'm not putting 2 and 2 together here. I don't know a situation that happens. You could have just figured it out. And there were only 3 minor league games left for the year, so they sent him back down. He still gets his money, but he's off for a little bit. Kind of a slap on the hand, I would think. He's still getting paid. I wanted to know what it was like in the National Football League. And some of the guys that you had, hell, Dennis Rodman, for God's sakes, went to his coach, said, I need a weekend off. And he gave him the weekend off to go to Las Vegas to get his yaya. And Jordan was like, he needs to get his yayas out, man. Let him go. He'll play. And he came back and went 20-10 the next night.
Yeah.
What's it like for and you brought this up where you've got handlers, like, you're not going in this place, go home. And I'm assuming you still have that, but do you have guys that like to push the envelope?
Okay, well, are we asking when I played or like as a coach now or both?
I'm going to let you decipher which direction you want to go.
I'll take it both directions. Yeah. Now, I think that the overarching philosophy here that I learned was treat everybody fair but not the same.
Gotcha.
Okay, so take that as the overarching concept here. Lawrence Taylor, who I never played with, but he could do whatever he wanted, and he would show up on game day and be the best game wrecker in all of football.
Yeah.
You'd be foolish if you're Bill Parcells to not play him. And people say, oh, he's going to ruin the team. No, they won Super Bowls doing it. You know, like he was just gifted with more, could do more than most. I played with, I'm not going to use any names here, but I played with a player in Tampa who is as dominant as any player in the history of football at his position. And he adhered to almost zero of the team policies early in his career. Mm-hmm. He was reprimanded internally. He had to do extra running. He had to do, things that were you would call punishments within the building, but it never affected Sundays. So he was going to play on Sundays. Mm-hmm. There's players that try to live that way, and their performance decreases. Now it's easy for players and coaches, the moral authority of the team, however your team's structured. Many of the teams I played on, I was the moral authority, to be able to go to that player and say, guess what? You stink now. Like you've had some choices to make. You made some decisions. Here's your consequences. I'm going to coach, and I'm telling them you ain't playing Sunday because you're hurting the team. And coach would say, okay, you're team leader, you're captain, you get to make that choice. Now you're not losing much because that player's playing crappy anyways.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
so,
true. Yeah. I mean, this guy got sent down because he was batting below the Mendoza line. I'm like, it's not going to hurt the team. They're out of the playoffs.
Exactly. Yeah. So there's hurting the team culture, and then there's hurting the team on game day in the NFL. I will tell one story. I'm not going to, if I can't use this name. I showed up on a Saturday morning playing Sunday, and I was first one in the building. I'm not even going to say what team I was on because people could piece it together. And I found a young star player that was comatose, laying in front of his locker. And I went over to this player. I wasn't sure if he was napping, what happened. So he was still in his clothes from the night before, Friday night, had vomit on them, had white powder off of his nose, could smell the Hennessy. His clothes were basically drenched in Hennessy, and he was completely passed out. I took his clothes off, butt naked, threw him over my shoulder, butt naked, took him in the shower, and poured cold water on him until he woke up, put him on the floor of the showers, made sure, cleaned him up.
Yeah.
Got him ready for team meetings. He went to team meetings. After team meetings, I pulled him aside, and I said, you have one chance. I mean, this is a difference maker now. I said, I won't say anything if you go play well tomorrow. And he caught 2 touchdowns the next day.
I love that story.
So people, some of my teammates at the time, they found out later on that Saturday, are you going to say anything? And I'm like, I don't think there's a lose here because in the first quarter, if he's not playing well, then I'll expose it.
Yeah. And
I've also talked to the backup, and the backup knows that he's ready to rock. He may get starter reps on game day. And it was, and again, I followed up with this player. For those of you people that are like, oh gosh, what did you teach him life lessons? I mentored this kid for the next 2 years, and he ended up being a really good person, kicked his drug habit, kicked his alcohol habit, is a productive member of society, had a decent career, and is a good human now. Mm-hmm. So it was a teaching opportunity too for later to then get with him and mentor him. But the NFL is different now. It is about winning and losing. Yes, you want to make a difference in people's lives. Yes, hopefully I had an impact in people's lives. But at the end of the day, you're not getting paid to develop humans. You're getting paid to win football games.
At that level, you should.
At that level. Yeah. Now, totally different here.
Yeah.
Here, hurting the team, and I think this is in general in college football, if you hurt the team in any way, you should be punished. And no one player is big enough to cost you a game. None of them are good enough. Like, this is a general message I've learned in college football. None of them are good enough.
Yeah.
And you think in your mind, oh, Caleb Downs is the greatest. Yeah, Caleb Downs is one of the greatest college football players I've ever seen as a true freshman. They're going to be just fine at Ohio State if Caleb misses the game. Mm-hmm. Against whoever, they will be just fine. Whoever your next greatest player is on your team that you root for, you're not going to be as good, but it's not like the NFL where you might be 30% worse if that player misses the game, because you got to understand, college football is more about teams winning. The NFL is about an individual matchup. Like, everything in professional football is an individual matchup. The schemes are important to create one-on-one matchups. It's our dudes versus your dudes. And then the level of sophistication and XO and game management, all these things are just, it's calculus. This is like 5th grade math.
Yeah.
And so I don't think you ever in college football player put one player that much above the team. So if you are late to an academic meeting, in my mind, that's the same as staying out too late on a Thursday night. Like sense, they're equal in my book. Both hurt the team.
Info@TonyCurryRadio.net. Info@TonyCurryRadio.net. If you have any questions for Coach Dilfer, we'll get into them. Of course, every single week we do the Inferno. Every single week we get out as quickly as possible. And a big ball game coming up here, this Coach's Corner, not to mention our hot topic of the day, a short break. And then you've got some exciting news because you and me are working double duty this week.
I am?
Yes, you are. We'll tell you about it next year on the Inferno. Welcome back to the Inferno, along with Trent Dilfer. He, of course, the head coach of the UAB Blazers, getting ready for the midshipmen this weekend in Navy. Always a special game to play Navy. And, of course, Mark Ingram, the UAB athletic director, will join us again next year, or next week, should I say, not next year, although, I think we did pretty well. I think we did pretty well without him. I mean, sometimes he just sits there, but no, we love having Mark in the show. He does fantastic work. You're going to join me on another show I'm doing called The Starting Lineup.
Yes.
So we will get ready to record that on Saturday morning from 10:30 till 11 o'clock on ABC 3340. You will join me. So check out that game along with my good friend Kip Kiefer, who's the executive director of the Birmingham Racecourse Casino. Talk about a nice place to go. If you ever want to go to a nice dinner, I can set you up there, brother.
I'm in.
Limo, the whole 9 yards, man. The place is, and it's open 24 hours a day. So we want to make sure we don't go before game night.
Yes,
all right?
Exactly.
But you'll join me on that show coming up on ABC 3340. So I'll look forward to that. Coach, best of luck for you, man. And thanks again for being so transparent and real with your stories. And let's go get a big win. By the way, I just want to throw this out. UAB 4-1 the last 5 home games against the spread. Just saying.
I like it.
Yeah.
Let's get the win. That's all I care about.
That's what I'm going to take. I'm going to get a winner chicken dinner is what I'm going to do. And I'm going to go to Pearl River Resort and I'm going to load up down there.
That's what we call our Sunday night when we win. We haven't done enough of it, but they're winner dinner, then winner dinner, then winner dinner. And I want to get to the point where there's so many winner, they just run together.
There you go.
It's just winner dinner.
Thanks, Coach. Appreciate it, man. This episode of The Inferno is presented by Pearl River Resort. Call it an early weekend and head over to Pearl River Resort, where it's always no work and all play at Silverstar, Golden Moon, and Dancing Rabbit Golf Club. And be sure to catch the big game excitement at Timeout Lounge.